Welcome to Reddit, Cheated On. Please like this video and subscribe to Reddit Cheated On. I hope you enjoy the story. Let's begin. Joseph Hayes typed the final line of code with a satisfying click. Another problem solved, another day done. He leaned back in his office chair and checked the time. 6:30 p.m. Earlier than expected. Good. He could surprise Alice and the kids with an early return from his business trip. The rain pattered against his hotel window. Typical Seattle weather. Joseph stood stretching his tall frame. At 41, he still maintained the lean build of his younger days. Those small wrinkles have begun to form at the corners of his eyes, evidence of years spent staring at computer screens, building the comfortable life his family now enjoyed. He packed his laptop with the same precision he applied to everything in his life, each item in its proper place, each decision calculated. The hotel room looked almost untouched as he left it, bed made, towels hung neatly. The drive home took 30 minutes. Joseph used the time to plan the weekend with his family. Maybe they could visit that new science museum Alina had mentioned. His 14-year-old daughter shared his analytical mind and insatiable curiosity. Or perhaps Caspian would prefer the aquarium. At 10, his son still marveled at everything, eyes wide with wonder at the world. The thought of their faces lighting up warmed Joseph from within. The rain had stopped by the time he pulled into their driveway. The two-story suburban home stood elegant against the darkening sky, windows glowing with warm light. Joseph grabbed his overnight bag and briefcase, taking the stone path to the front door. He unlocked it quietly, wanting to surprise them. The house smelled like the lavender candles Alice always lit in the evenings. Soft music drifted from upstairs, not the classical pieces she usually played, but something modern with a heavy beat. Joseph set his bags down in the entryway and moved toward the staircase. "Alice," he called. No response. The music continued. Upstairs, Joseph climbed the steps, his hand gliding along the polished wooden banister. The master bedroom door stood half open. A sliver of golden light spilled into the hallway. He pushed the door open further, mouth open to announce his early return, when he heard Alice's voice, but not addressed him. He's so predictable. Joseph froze, 1 foot across the threshold. Alice sat on their bed, back to the door, phone pressed her ear. She hadn't noticed him. Her laughter, light, carefree, with an edge he'd never heard directed at him, filled the room. "A walking bank account," she continued, unaware of his presence. "Robert, baby, just wait. Once the divorce is final, I'll be free, and I'll have everything." The words hit Joseph like ice water. His breath caught, but he made no sound. Years of controlling his emotions during high-stakes business negotiations served him well now. Instead of barging in, instead of demanding answers, he simply listened. He stepped back silently, retreating into the shadows of the hallway. The closet door stood slightly ajar, and through the crack he could see Alice's reflection in their bedroom mirror. She was smiling. No? Grinning as she twisted a strand of hair around her finger. "Yes, of course. I've thought it through. I've been planning this for months. The lawyer says I'll get half of everything, including his company shares." Another laugh. "No, he doesn't suspect a thing. Too busy with his precious computers to notice what's happening right under his nose." Joseph felt his heart rate slowing, his mind cooling. Where another man might have felt his world collapsing, Joseph felt his sharpening. Every word Alice spoke became a data point, information to be collected and analyzed later. The kids, they'll adjust. Besides, they barely see him anyway. Always working, and you're so much more fun. That was a lie. Joseph had always prioritized time with his children, scheduling his work around their events, helping with homework, teaching them to code. Alice was the one who frequently missed Alina's science competitions and Caspio's soccer games, claiming headaches or conflicts. Next week, I'll give him the papers. Next week then. Joseph backed away, silent as a ghost. He descended the stairs, retrieved his bags, and slipped out the front door, careful not to let it click shut loudly. Back in his car, he sat motionless, breathing steadily, organizing his thoughts. The betrayal wasn't just about the affair. It was the calculation, the coldness, the months of deception. It was about her plans to take not just his money, but his children. Joseph started the car. He would drive around for an hour, then return home. He would kiss Alice on the cheek, hug his children, and go about his evening as planned. He would give no indication that he knew anything was amiss. Because Joseph Hayes didn't react with emotion, he responded with strategy. An hour later, he pulled into the driveway again and entered his house with a deliberate heaviness to his steps. "I'm home," he called out. Alice appeared at the top of the stairs, wearing a different outfit than earlier. Her smile looked the same as it had for 15 years of marriage, but now Joseph saw the emptiness behind it. "You're back early," she said, descending the stairs to greet him. Finished sooner than expected. He accepted her kiss, feeling nothing but the cold calculation behind it. "Dad," Caspian bounded down the hallway, launching himself into Joseph's arms. Joseph lifted him, savoring the genuine affection that still existed in his home. "Hey, buddy, miss me so much? Mom said we could have pizza tonight. Can we?" "Of course." Joseph set his son down as Alina appeared, more reserved but equally pleased to see him. "Hey, Dad, how was the trip? Productive?" He hugged her, noting how tall she'd grown. She would soon be taller than Alice. "How's the science project coming along? Almost done? Could you look at it later?" "Absolutely." Throughout dinner, Joseph maintained the performance. He laughed at appropriate moments, asked about their days, and pretended not to notice how Alice checked her phone every few minutes. He studied her, this stranger who wore his wife's face, and wondered how he'd missed the signs. Later, after the kids were in bed, Joseph retreated to his home office. He opened his laptop, but didn't work. Instead, he began planning. If Alice wanted war, she would get one, but it wouldn't be the battle she expected. Joseph placed his hands on the keyboard and began typing. Not code this time, but notes, names, dates, accounts, assets, everything that would soon become ammunition in the coming conflict. His fingers moved with precision, each keystroke a small but deliberate step toward what would become his most complex project yet. The screen's blue light illuminated his face in the dark, revealing an expression devoid of pain or anger. Only determination remained. For 7 days, Joseph maintained the illusion. He went to work, came home, helped the kids with their homework, and slept beside Alice as if nothing had changed. All the while he prepared. He spoke with his company's legal team under the guise of updating his will, gathering information about what might happen to his assets in a divorce. He documented household expenses, tracked recent purchases, and quietly moved select personal assets. On the 8th day, it happened. Joseph sat at the kitchen table, enjoying his Sunday morning coffee and reading the news on his tablet. Alina and Caspian were upstairs, she helping him with a school project. The house was quiet, save for the ticking of the grandfather clock in the living room. Alice entered wearing a silk blouse and tailored pants, her makeup immaculate despite the early hour. She carried a manila envelope. "We need to talk," she said, her voice controlled but with an undercurrent of tension. Joseph looked up, his face neutral. Abed pulled out a chair across from him and sat down, placing the envelope on the table between them. Her manicured finger tapped it twice. This isn't working anymore, Joseph. What is it? He took another sip of coffee, watching her over the rim of his mug. Us? This marriage? She pushed the envelope toward him. These are divorce papers. I've already spoken with a lawyer. Joseph set his mug down deliberately. He reached for the envelope, opening it and scanning the first page with practiced indifference. Inside, raced, analyzing her tactics. She had chosen Sunday morning when the children were home but occupied, ensuring he wouldn't make a scene. She had dressed carefully, armoring herself in her best clothes. She expected resistance. Tears, perhaps? Rage? How long? He asked, calmly. The question seemed to throw her. What? How long have you been planning this? Alice shifted in her seat. Does it matter? It's over. We both know it has been for a while. Joseph nodded slowly. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a pen, the expensive one she'd given him for their 10th anniversary. With steady hands, he signed each flag page, initialed where required, and dated the document. There, he slid the papers back across the table. Anything else? Alice stared at him, confusion creasing her carefully made-up face. That's it? No fight? No begging? Joseph leaned back in his chair. You want your freedom? You have it. A flash of uncertainty crossed her features before her smirk returned. I'll have my lawyer contact yours about arrangements for the children, and the division of assets, of course. Joseph stood, gathering his tablet and empty coffee mug. I assume you'll be moving out. I? Yes, she faltered for a moment. Tomorrow. Would you like me to tell the children, or will you? We should tell them together. Alice rose as well, clutching the envelope to her chest. Tonight. Joseph nodded again and turned toward the sink to rinse his mug. He heard her huff of breath behind. Victim of an emotionally distant husband who had manipulated her into signing unfair agreements, but her arguments fell flat against the mountain of evidence Cameron presented. When Judge Harmon finally spoke, her voice carried the weight of decades on the bench. Mrs. Hayes, did you read the divorce agreement before signing it? Alice hesitated. I skimmed it. I was upset. Did Mr. Hayes prevent you from seeking legal counsel? No, but did you understand that by signing, you were agreeing to the terms contained therein? Generally, yes, but I didn't realize. Mrs. Hayes, Judge Harmon brooked no further evasion. The court cannot protect individuals from their own poor decisions. The agreements you signed are legally binding. The infidelity clauses in your prenuptial agreement are enforceable, and the evidence of paternity fraud is frankly disturbing. Alice paled. Therefore, this court upholds the financial arrangements as outlined in the divorce agreement. Mrs. Hayes shall retain assets solely in her name and personal property. Mr. Hayes retains all other marital assets, including the family home. Child support will be determined pending the outcome of further paternity testing, if Mrs. Hayes wishes to pursue it. The gavel fell with finality. Alice sat stunned, while Veronica whispered urgently in her ear. Joseph felt no triumph, no joy, only a cold certainty that justice of a sort had been served. Outside the courtroom, Alice caught up to him, grabbing his arm. "You've ruined me," she hissed, tears threatening to spill. "I have nothing left." Joseph gently removed her hand. "You have exactly what you came into this marriage with, Alice. Your freedom. Isn't that what you wanted? Where am I supposed to go? What about the children?" "You might try Robert," Joseph suggested mildly. "Oh, wait, he's dealing with his own financial investigation. How unfortunate." Understanding dawned in her eyes. "You did that, too." The audit, Joseph merely smiled. "Have a good day, Alice." He walked away, leaving her standing in the courthouse hallway, the ruins of her plans scattered around her. That evening, his phone rang again. "Robert, Cole." "You son of a," Robert growled when Joseph answered. "You called the financial board on me." "I have no idea what you're talking about." The hell you don't! They're freezing my accounts during the investigation. I can't access my own money. That sounds difficult, Joseph replied evenly. Almost as difficult as discovering the children you raised aren't actually yours. Silence stretched between them. She's staying at my place, Robert finally said. Did you know that after you cut her off, she had nowhere else to go? I assumed as much. Well, that's about to change. I can't afford to support her now. Not with this audit. She's got to go. Joseph felt a twinge of something, not quite pity, but recognition of the human cost of his actions. Then he remembered Alice's words on the phone, a walking bank account. Your choices are your own, he said, as are hers. Yeah, well, just thought you should know. The call ended. Joseph sat in his quiet living room, the house empty with the children at their friends for another night. Everything was proceeding according to plan. Alice financially destitute, Robert unable to help her, the lovers turning on each other under pressure. Yet there was no satisfaction in it. The victory felt hollow, the triumph empty. Joseph poured himself a rare glass of whiskey and stared out at the Seattle skyline, lights blurring through the rain-streaked window. Tomorrow he would pick up the children. Tomorrow life would continue. But tonight he allowed himself to mourn, not for Alice, not for the marriage, but for the life he had thought was real. For 15 years, Alina sat cross-legged on her bed, textbooks spread around her, when Joseph knocked on her open door the following evening. "Got a minute?" he asked. She nodded, marking her place before closing the book. "What's up?" Joseph entered, sitting carefully on the edge of the bed. "I want to talk to you about your mother." Alina's expression closed off immediately. "What about her?" "She's going through a difficult time right now. Financial problems because of what happened in court." At Joseph's surprised look, she added, "I'm not stupid, Dad. I know how to use the internet, public records." Joseph smiled faintly. "You're too smart for your own good sometimes." "So you took all the money?" "Not all of it, just what was legally mine." Alina studied him for a moment. "Is this the part where you tell me I should feel sorry for her?" "No," Joseph said quietly. "This is the part where I ask how you're feeling about everything." She looked down, picking at a loose thread on her bedspread. "She called earlier, crying, said she might have to move away for a while to get back on her feet, asked if I would come with her." Joseph's heart stuttered. "And what did you say?" "I told her no." Alina looked up, her eyes hard in a way no 14-year-old should be. "She lied to you. She lied to us. She doesn't deserve us." Joseph reached out, taking her hand. "Alina, despite everything, she's still your mother. A mother doesn't do what she did." Alina pulled her hand away. "She called me an ungrateful brat, said after everything she'd done for me, I should be on her side. But what has she really done? You're the one who's always been there." The words warmed Joseph even as they saddened him. "Love isn't something you earn, Alina. It just is. You could be angry with her, but nothing. I made my choice." She reopened her textbook, signaling the end of the conversation. "I'm staying with you." Joseph nodded, respecting her boundaries. "I'll call you when dinner's ready." Caspian proved a more difficult conversation. At 10, he understood less but felt everything more acutely. Joseph found him playing video games in the den, thumbs moving rapidly over the controller. "Hey buddy, pause that for a sec." Caspian sighed dramatically, but complied. "What?" "Your mom might be coming by tomorrow to talk to you." The boy's face brightened momentarily, then fell. "Is she taking us for the weekend after all?" "No, not this time. She's having some adult problems she needs to sort out." "Because you took all her money." Caspian's directness was startling. "Who told you that?" "Mom texted. She said, you're being mean and not letting her have any money for a place to live." Joseph sat beside his son, choosing his words with care. "That's not exactly true. Your mom and I had an agreement about money, and the judge said we need to stick to that agreement. So she's poor now." "Not poor, just not as comfortable as before." Caspian put down the controller completely, turning to face Joseph. "Is it because she has a boyfriend?" It's complicated, buddy. Grown-ups always say that when they don't want to explain. Caspian folded his arms. I'm not a baby. Joseph smiled despite himself. No, you're not. The truth is, your mom made some choices that hurt our family. The consequences of those choices mean she has less money now. Is she going to be okay? Yes, she might have to work more or live in a smaller place for a while, but she'll be okay. Caspian nodded, absorbing this. Can I still see her? Of course, she's still your mom, and she loves you. Do you still love her? The question caught Joseph off guard. Did he? The anger was there, the sense of betrayal, but love, that had died. The moment he heard her on the phone, plotting to take everything from him, including the children, who he now knew weren't biologically his. I care about her as your mother, he answered carefully, but sometimes adults stop being in love. That doesn't mean we stop caring about what happens to each other. Caspian seemed to accept this, turning back to his game. Can I play now? 5 more minutes, Dad. Yes, I'm glad I'm staying with you. Joseph ruffled the boy's hair, emotion welling in his throat. Me too, buddy. The doorbell rang early the next morning, a Saturday. Joseph, already dressed and halfway through his coffee, opened it to find Alice standing on the porch. She looked diminished somehow, her designer clothes replaced by jeans and a simple blouse, her hair pulled back without its usual perfect styling. Alice, he greeted neutrally. The kids are still asleep. I'm not here for them, not yet. She shifted uncomfortably. Can I come in, please? Against his better judgment, Joseph stepped aside, allowing her into what had once been their shared home. Alice entered hesitantly, looking around the familiar space as if seeing it for the first time. You haven't changed anything, she noted. The kids needed stability. She nodded, following her to the kitchen. Coffee? No, thank you. She took a seat at the counter, hands clasped tightly in front of her. I need to talk to you about the children. Joseph leaned against the opposite counter, mug in hand. What about them? Robert kicked me out. The words came in a rush. I have nowhere to go. My credit cards are maxed, my savings are gone, and I can't afford an apartment on my own. I need help, Joseph. What exactly are you asking for? Money, alone, just until I get back on my feet. She looked up, desperation in her eyes. For the kids' sake. Joseph took a slow sip of coffee. The court was quite clear about the financial arrangements. Damn the court, her voice rose, then immediately lowered as she glanced toward the stairs. This isn't about legalities, it's about our family, the family you were eager to leave for Robert, for the other men before him. Alice flinched. I made mistakes, terrible ones, but I still their mother. Yes, you are. Joseph set down his mug, which is why I'll pay for a modest apartment for 6 months, not for you, but so the children have somewhere reasonable to stay when they visit. Relief washed over her face. Thank you, God, thank you. With conditions, he continued. The lease will be in my name. You'll get a job, any job, to cover utilities and food, and you'll stick to the visitation schedule set by the court. Her relief dimmed somewhat. You don't trust me at all, do you? Would you, in my position? Alice looked away. No, I suppose not. She stood straightening her shoulders. May I see them now? They'll be up soon. You can wait in the living room. She moved to leave the kitchen, then paused. For what it's worth, I am sorry. Not just for getting caught, but for all of it. Joseph didn't reply. Her words meant nothing against the weight of her actions. Alina came downstairs first, stopping short when she saw her mother. Her face hardened instantly. What are you doing here? Alina moved toward her daughter, arms outstretched. Baby, I've missed you. Alina stepped back, avoiding the embrace. Really? You've been too busy to call all week. I've been dealing with some problems. Missed a scheduled visitation with Caspian. Small steps, but meaningful ones. There's one more thing. Alice hesitated. I received a letter from Robert Joseph. Joseph tensed. What did he want? To apologize. Actually, he's in Arizona now, apparently. Getting caught in that financial investigation was a wake-up call. He's working as a personal trainer, staying clean. Good for him. He mentioned you said you were right to do what you did. that we both deserved it. Alice paused. He wasn't wrong. Joseph remained silent, unsure how to respond to this unexpected admission. Anyway, I just wanted you to know about Chicago, about everything. Her voice grew quiet. I'm trying to make amends, Joseph, not to win you back or to change the past, just to be someone our children might respect again someday. I hope you succeed, Joseph said, and was surprised to realize he meant it, not for her sake, but for the children, who, despite everything, still carried a piece of her in their hearts. I'll let you know when I've made the final decision about the job, she said. Thank you for hearing me out. After the call ended, Joseph sat for a long moment, processing the conversation. Alice in Chicago, 1,000 miles of distance. Perhaps that was what they all needed. Space to grow beyond the shadow of betrayal and retribution. The rest of the day passed quickly in focused work and household tasks. By evening, the scent of roasting chicken filled the house as Joseph prepared dinner. Alina arrived home first, excited about the progress on her project. Caspian followed shortly after, muddy from soccer practice, but grinning with the uncontainable energy of boyhood. The doorbell rang just as Joseph was setting the table. I'll get it, Caspian raced to the door, Rex at his heels. Serafina entered amid enthusiastic greetings from boy and dog alike. Tall and athletic with curly dark hair and intelligent eyes, she balanced a bakery box in one hand while fending off Rex's excited jumps with the other. Easy, buddy, she laughed, scratching the dog's head. The cake is for after dinner. You brought cake? Caspian's eyes widened. Chocolate raspberry from that bakery, you like? Serafina handed the box to Joseph as he approached, accepting his quick kiss with a smile. Hi yourself, he replied, the simple exchange holding warmth that needed no elaboration. Alina appeared in the doorway. You're still going to help me with my journalism project, right? I've been researching techniques for investigative interviews. Absolutely, Serafina assured her. I brought some sample question frameworks that might help. Dinner was a lively affair, filled with overlapping conversations about school projects, work challenges, and weekend plans. Joseph watched his children interact with Serafina, Alina eager for mentorship, Caspian simply enjoying her playful nature. The scene felt right, in a way he couldn't quite articulate. Later, after the children had gone upstairs to finish homework, Joseph and Serafina sat on the back porch watching the stars emerge in the clear night sky. Rex dozed at their feet, occasionally twitching in doggy dreams. Alice called today, Joseph said, breaking a comfortable silence. She's considering a job in Chicago. Serafina turned to look at him. How do you feel about that? Relieved, mostly. It would create a clean break. More distance. He reached for her hand. Make room for what's next. And what is next? Joseph Hayes, her fingers intertwined with his. Do, he smiled, the expression reaching his eyes in a way it seldom had before. I'm still figuring that out, but I know who I want beside me while I do. Serafina's answering smile held promise. Good answer. Above them, the stars continued their age-old dance, indifferent to human dramas, yet somehow comforting in their constancy. Joseph breathed deeply, feeling the weight of the past lifting further with each passing day. He was not the same man who had stood frozen in his bedroom doorway, listening to his wife's betrayal. That man had been broken, then hardened into something cold and calculating. The man sitting here now was softer at the edges, tempered by experience but not defined by it. The children weren't the same either. They carried scars, yes, but also strength. Alina's fierce intelligence, Caspian's resilient optimism. These qualities had not just survived the family's fracturing, but had somehow been honed by it. And then there was Serafina, unexpected and unplanned, bringing with her a perspective that reminded him there was more to life than old wounds and calculated revenge. that moving forward required not just leaving the past behind, but building something new in its place. "Penny for your thoughts," she said, nudging his shoulder gently. Joseph squeezed her hand. "Just thinking about how far we've come," he replied. "A year ago, I was consumed with making Alice pay for what she'd done. Now," he turned to face Serafina, placing a gentle hand on her still flat stomach, "now I can barely remember why it seems so important." "That's called healing," she said, covering his hand with hers and moving on. Joseph nodded. "There was a letter from her today. I didn't open it. Do you want to?" "No. Whatever she has to say, it belongs to the past." He kissed Serafina softly. "I'm more interested in the future." Inside the house, in the bottom drawer of his desk, Alice's unopened letter lay forgotten. Later that week, Joseph would move it to a box in the attic, along with other remnants of a life no longer his. Eventually, during a future move to a larger home for their growing family, the box would be discarded entirely, its contents, including the letter, consigned to ash. The man who had once plotted elaborate revenge over betrayal was gone, transformed by time and love, and the simple act of choosing to live well. In his place stood Joseph Hayes, father, soon-to-be husband, expectant dad, a man who had discovered that the best revenge wasn't destruction, but creation, building a life so complete that the past became irrelevant. That, they asked for Alice, she would continue in Chicago, gradually rebuilding her relationship with Caspian, tentatively reaching out to Alina through emails and birthday cards. She would never fully recover the life she had discarded so carelessly, but she would find a different kind of peace in acceptance and small acts of atonement. And that, Joseph realized, as he stood in his yard with the woman he loved, was the last laugh, not a vindictive chuckle of triumph, but the genuine laughter of joy that comes from understanding that the best way to overcome darkness is to create light. The past was dead.